I'm Larry Farver, and let's queer up politics. Out gay Carl Wilson wins New York City Stonewall District Council race, beating Mamdani, endorsed candidate. Carl Wilson has won a New York City council seat representing Manhattan's 3rd District, a historic LGBTQ+ stronghold that includes the Stonewall Inn. Wilson, former chief of staff to State Senator Erik Bottcher, will become the district's 5th consecutive out gay council member. This will continue a streak of queer representation dating back to 1992. The district covers neighborhoods including Chelsea, Hell's Kitchen, the West Village, and Greenwich Village. Wilson's victory marks a win for moderate Democrats in a closely watched race. New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani has endorsed Wilson's opponent, Lindsey Boylan, while Council Speaker Julie Menin backed Wilson. As Wilson was the only out LGBTQ+ candidate in the race, this sparked discussion about whether the district's historic identity should influence representation. However, voters told the advocate that they prioritized policy over identity. Backed by labor unions, elected officials, and queer groups, Wilson campaigned on affordable housing, expanded crisis intervention services, and stronger public transit. He also emphasized LGBTQ+ protections, particularly for transgender people. Well, leading off the last point, I'm glad he's supporting the trans community, but having been a former resident in the New York City area, all of those things are important, looking at housing and infrastructure and transportation. So I'm glad to hear that the identity, especially of gay New York and LGBTQ New York, is still a stronghold.
I do have a question, though. Is Greenwich Village even gay anymore? I mean, it wasn't very gay when the last time I visited, like maybe 8 years ago.
I was in that part of New York City, like a year or two ago. It was still pretty gay. It's all like just walking around with lots of queers.
Gentrification moves us every 10 blocks every decade or so.
Most cities are, again, we have fought for years now for, assimilation, I'll call it. So it's what I respect is that there is an LGBT voice as part of the council. The fact that he happens to be in a district that also has a lot of our LGBT history is great.
Yes.
And what I like is the fact though that the article said that, people vote not based on identity, but based on qualifications. So apparently they all thought he was a qualified person, so we shall see if he is or not.
I actually would say the voters, I call BS on the voters on that one, and you've elected queer people since 1992, there's nothing wrong with that, but when he was the only out candidate, he was the chief of staff to the last openly gay city council of the district. He was sort of the guy and I get that. But don't say that identity didn't play a role. Now, for those that don't know, Lindsey Boylan, she was one of the first people to accuse Andrew Cuomo of sexual harassment. That was her claim to fame. And I think that's one of the reasons why Mamdani supported her. Partially because if those that didn't know, Mamdani did like to remind people that Andrew Cuomo was a criminal and a liar. But for me, I was very disappointed in this district and these voters because, no offense to this particular candidate, Julie Menin is a terrible city council president. She has been working very hard to dismantle the will of the voters. She's been trying to push anti-free speech legislation. That's what this race was really going to be about, is Mamdani just vetoed this free speech buffer zone stuff that they wanted to pull, that the ACLU and all these progressives were for. And this guy could be a vote to override the veto. So we'll see if this person is going to help represent the people or if he's just going to be another business interest, corporate developer, Julie Menin acolyte.
And without actually reading the opponent's platform, I can't tell you what their meaningful policy. Everyone can. If you're running for New York City Council, protection of LGBTQ rights, it's kind of a default setting.
Again, housing, transportation.
Yes.
The two things that New York are famous for having problems with. So,
but what you're going to do on housing or transportation, those nitty-gritties, New York voters will tear you apart on.
Right, or what you can actually get through. Anybody, we just said it earlier with politics, everybody can say this is what I'm going to do, but if you're one person, what are you truly going to accomplish unless you have a strong enough will and power and can sway some people?
And city council, you're part of a group where it's Trump and Mamdani are both shown that an executive really can. If they're really interested in using the power, they can. And you can use it for good, like I would say Mamdani does, or you could use it for evil, like I think most of America
Why are you
understands Trump
gesturing
does.
towards me about this?
Well, you're to my right, so. Sorry.
Well, left is sinister, so it shouldn't be. Anyways, there is no other queer nonprofit media platforms like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by sharing them and subscribing to Queer News Tonight.